I'm Jean Schumacher, founder of the Plant Based Academy, where I provide help, support, guidance, and resources to switch to a plant based lifestyle and get your health back. Today, I have the privilege of connecting with Dr. Shikha Murchia, who is a board certified physician specializing in internal and lifestyle medicine. So, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me here tonight.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Oh, obesity. It's a big
Yeah.
one, literally. What is it, and why are we concerned about it?
Yep. So obesity is just becoming more of a problem now. It's actually a big part of my practice that I see patients. Obesity is actually defined in terms of body mass index. A body mass index, as a lot of you may know, is just your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters square. So it's not a very perfect measurement, but it's been extensively studied. And so a BMI or a body mass index of above 30, so your weight for your height, if it's above 30, it's considered obese. Between 25 and 29.9 is considered overweight. And then obesity itself is divided in different classes, class one, two, three. So between 30 and 35 is class one, between 35 and 40 is class two, and then above 40 is class three, or it's called severe. It used to be called morbid obesity, but we call it severe obesity now. And we're just concerned because obesity is related to just so many comorbidities, especially type 2 diabetes, which then, of course, has its own complications, increases the risk of just all cause mortality. So your risk of dying is just higher when you're obese. And then cardiovascular disease like heart attacks, strokes, blood clots. It can increase the risk of several different types of cancers like breast cancer, colon cancer, and kidney cancer, etc. So that's why it is of concern and we have to treat it.
100% because you go any place, you go to a mall, whatever, and you see like how enormous people have gotten and
Yeah.
just it's crazy. Even just going into the hospital, like I noticed that they have a normal sized chair
Mhm.
and then a huge
We
one.
have we have bariatric chairs in our waiting rooms, absolutely. Yes.
Oh my gosh. I mean, and I went and had blood work done not too long ago. I swear I felt like a little kid in this chair. It was so big. It was so
Yes, they are big there because we have to accommodate everybody.
I know, but my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what do most doctors use for medical tools to help patients, for weight loss?
Initially, like years ago, the only best tool was bariatric surgery. There's been medications for many years. One of the older ones was called fen which actually got pulled out off the market probably in the late 90s or early 2000s because it caused heart valve defects. So it was kind of dangerous. But a part of the fen called phentermine is still stuck around. So it helps suppress your appetite. It's sort of a cousin of Adderall. So it's a stimulant and it suppresses your appetite. So that's used sometimes. We refer to bariatric surgery for gastric surgery, depending on the individual patient, their needs, their illnesses. Anybody over the BMI of 35 can be eligible for bariatric surgery. And years ago, they did gastric bypass. Also, you may have heard that they used to do lap band, where they just went actually inside made a little cut in the stomach and put a band around the stomach, which they could inflate or deflate with a fluid. That has fallen out of favor because a lot of people had severe nausea and vomiting with it, a lot of malabsorption of minerals and vitamins. So now it's gastric sleeve, which is a little bit gentler than all these other procedures, but it still works. Patients lose a lot of weight. And now the latest and the greatest, which is all the rage, is the GLP-1 agonist. So these are the injectable drugs like Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, and Mounjaro. And they were developed years ago, actually, initially to treat diabetes. And it was called exenatide years ago. It was from the venom of the Gila monster. And I think when they started using it, they realized that patients were losing weight as well. And then these drugs, so Wegovy actually got approved in 2021, so just 3 years ago. So I do use that in my practice. Lots of physicians use it. And now it's actually even used after bariatric surgery when patients have had their gastric sleeve done. And then, after several months, they start on these drugs as well to continue their weight loss. So there are lots of tools in our in our toolbox right now. So it's exciting times. But none of these come without side effects. And if you want, we can talk about those as well.
We have another tool in the toolbox, that's for
Yes.
sure. And that is going plant-based. And honestly, if I hear one more guy who's gone plant-based and I've lost 100 pounds overnight, I'm gonna hurt them because you know, I still have some fat to lose, and because I don't know, the mothership, it just won't give it up. And so,
Yeah.
can you explain some of the basic principles of a plant-based diet and how does it support weight loss?
A whole food plant-based diet is different than a vegan diet, as in it is, of course, plant-based. It includes whole grains, beans, so legumes, which are beans and lentils, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, minimally unprocessed or minimally processed form as your main part of diet. We avoid animal products or at least minimize them, and which include anything like red meat, beef and pork, poultry like chicken and turkey, eggs. We avoid dairy and all its products like milk, butter, cheese, yogurt, cream cheese, all of that, cottage cheese. Literally have to list it out for my patients because a lot of people don't realize that, dairy is so incorporated in everybody's diet. And how it supports weight loss is that it's just, there's just so much to talk about. First of all, it is very low in calories compared to animal-based and junk food. So calorie density is a concept where how many calories are in 1 pound of food. For example, like green leafy vegetables have 100 calories in a pound. So if you're eating, 2 pounds of leafy greens, you're going to be super full and you're going to have had only 200 calories. Whereas a 6 ounce of chicken breast is about 380 calories. So it's just that different. Secondly, they're loaded with fiber, phytonutrients, which increase your metabolism. When people lose weight, even if you lose 3 to 7% of your body weight, according to the American Diabetic Association, your blood sugars can drop dramatically. They're really, really better glucose control. So it's just so important to get towards a healthier and a more normal weight.
And it's so true. And I've seen people like in like 2 weeks, have to get off medications because if you're diabetic or, hypertension, the medications, it was going to drop your like blood pressure too low. The same thing with diabetics. And, you don't need that amount of drugs anymore. So,
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
and that is so awesome. It is just so awesome when you can see that. But what are some common misconceptions about plant-based diet for weight loss?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's actually one of my favorite things. And I deal with that very regularly in my office. So I have a lot of patients who come to me for weight loss because, they come to me seeking the Wegovy's and the Zepbounds of the world, and which I prescribe. I don't not prescribe, but I always first rope them into lifestyle medicine. And I'm like, you need to build your foundation with plant-based eating. So the biggest misconception I have is, people have come to me already trying so many diets. They're like, oh yeah, I cut out all my carbs or carbohydrates. So carbs is the big villain. So, and I get it, like junk food, like your donuts and cookies and chips, those are your bad carbs, or candy. But people tend to cut out, they're like, I don't eat rice, I don't eat potatoes, I don't eat sweet potatoes, I don't eat fruit. Or like, if they ate rice one day, they're like, oh my God, I ate rice and, I must have gained weight with that. So that's a big misconception. I'm like, all carbs are not equal. Whole plant foods are all carbohydrates, rich foods, but they are good for you. So, they're packed with nutrients, vitamins, minerals, fiber. They're high in water weight, so they're actually good. So that's one misconception. Second, and the biggest one is protein. And that is why I think a lot of my office time goes in telling people that plant-based foods have protein. People feel protein equals animal food or meat or chicken or turkey or eggs, and certainly these things have protein, but they come, associated with fat, saturated fat, heme iron, zero fiber. They're probably raised in factory farms and given hormones and such. So they come with a lot of other bad side effects. Dr. Christopher Gardner, you may have heard about him. He's in the nutrition department at Stanford. I think he's the chief. Him and his colleagues published this really nice review in a nutrition journal in 2019, and it's all about protein. They said that the estimated requirement of protein is just 0.66 grams per kilogram. And then, in spite of that, the government has set the RDA, or the recommended daily allowance, is zero point 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So, and now I think it's coming out in research that elderly patients and athletes need more protein, so 1 gram per kilogram. But in the United States, we eat a lot more than that. And then the other thing that Dr. Gardner's colleagues published, and actually have beautiful graphs, that all amino acids, so proteins are essentially amino acids, and there are 9 essential ones you can't make in your body and you have to get from diet. And then the rest of them are non-essential, which means our body can make it. All 20 amino acids are present in all the animal foods, and they're all present in all plant-based foods as well, including blueberries, raspberries. They're just in lesser quantity or in different amounts. So if you're eating a well-balanced plant-based diet, you are going to get protein. And the other thing I always tell people, like, where did the horse, pig, cow, chicken get their protein from? They generally mostly eat grains and grass and leaves and berries and oats and things like that. So that's another big myth I try to bust. Another misconception that a lot of people have is that calcium. Where am I going to get my calcium? Oh, I have dairy because I need calcium. And again, yes, dairy has calcium, but again, it comes packaged with lactose. 60% of our world's population is lactose intolerant. We're not meant to have cow's milk. We're not meant to have milk beyond infancy. It comes packaged with saturated fat. It's protein, as you've seen in Dr. T. Colin Campbell's China study. All his work was related to casein, which is the protein in milk and milk products. It increases the risk of cancer. And then only 30% of the calcium is absorbed from milk or milk products in our gut. Plant-based sources, all your leafy green vegetables, your cruciferous, beans, tofu, soy products, seeds like sesame, oranges, bananas, they're very high in calcium. So you can get your calcium very easily from plant-based sources. And I think the last misconception is olive oil. I think these were my top four. Olive oil is considered a health food by a lot of people. And that's another thing, I have to bust. Like, first of all, oil, any oil, doesn't matter if it's olive, extra virgin olive, they're all highly calorie dense food. I think it's the most calorie dense food on the planet. It's got 9 calories per gram, and it's all pure fat, 4,000 calories in 1 pound of oil. So, people will come and say, yeah, I have salads every day and I'm not losing weight. And when you dig deeper, they're adding olive oil under their salad for dressing, or they sprinkle olive oil all over their pasta at the end. And then so I have to tell them it's not a health food. You've got to back off if you don't need oil. I mean, if you need a minimal amount of oil to make your food not stick, or if you need a tiny spray of oil for something, it's okay. But you do not need oil to cook. You don't need oil for flavor. Oil is not a health food. Olive oil is not a health food. So those are my top misconceptions that I have to talk about.
Well, I always like to share it takes just for 500 milliliters of oil to
Yeah.
create olive oil, 7.5 pounds of olives.
Wow. Yeah.
Give me the olives.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me the olives.
Nobody can eat 7.5 pounds of olives. It's just not possible.
No, no, it
Yeah.
is not. That's one of the things I have a lot of discussion about with people. It literally sludges your blood. And
Yep.
you know how sticky the bottle is on the outside? That's what it's doing to your red blood cells, is it's making your red blood cells sticky. They stick together and it can't flow through your body. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's not, no, it's not healthy on any, I don't care if it was pressed by virgins on the seventh solstice of the seventh month. No, no,
Yeah.
no, it is not a health food.
It's not a health food. So that's another, yeah, that's, I think, so those are my protein, carbs, calcium, olive oil, all those misconceptions. Yeah.
What are some practical tips for someone new to plant-based eating who wants to lose weight?
Yeah, I mean, I actually made a handout. I actually made it from my office staff one time, and I gave it to them on New Year's Day. I'm like, here, but I handed it to a lot of patients. Some of the biggest things, I think, when you get started, and again, I think your audience is very, very well aware of all this, but for anybody out there, stock your pantry. If with just really easy things that don't go bad. A lot of people say, yeah, I bought spinach and it just all wilted. I don't know what to do, or it's just gone moldy. So just buy, dry beans and lentils. So they'll never go bad, right? Just store them. You can buy canned beans. So if you don't have an instant pot or a pressure cooker, just open up a can of beans, rinse it, and eat it. Buy pastas, cereals, oats, buy sauces. And of course, make sure they don't have sugar and oils in them, but like Frank's Red Hot or sriracha sauce and things like that. Buy mustard, buy a bunch of spices. So keep building your spice cabinet. Try out your Italian spices, Middle Eastern, Indian, Asian. There's like a million spices out there. That's what makes the food tasty. It's not the butter and the oil that makes it tasty. So that's the pantry part. Then stock your refrigerator. You know, that you'll probably have to do it every week to buy fresh produce and plant-based milks and things like that. Then freezer. If you are not a great cook, start with frozen vegetables. In fact, they're very nutrient dense. Frozen fruit. You can literally throw them in your oatmeal and microwave them, and they're there. Same thing, you buy frozen peas and carrots, frozen broccoli, frozen cauliflower. There's so many things you can do. And so those are some very easy ways to get started, to just first bring all the ingredients. And then I also have resources that I tell them to educate themselves with. So those things will help in getting started.
One of the tips I give newbies is to
Mhm.
find recipes that you're going to like.
Yes.
Like, for example, my husband, I think we're on week 492. Mexican lasagna. He loves it. It's one of my signature dishes. I'll say to him, like on the weekend when I'm cooking, what do you want for lunch this week? Mexican lasagna. I can make other things. And he's like, no, no, I like it. Next question.
Yeah.
I like a little more variety, but it's finding those, back in the day, it used to be Meatloaf Monday,
Mhm.
Taco Tuesday. Now you're looking for those same recipes
Yeah.
that are going to be health promoting rather than health, breaking down your health.
Yeah, like my family is a tradition, my husband and I have a ritual. We fast every full moon. It's a Hindu ritual, and we used to make a special meal. So here's what it used to be before we went whole food. We had matar paneer, which is a peas and cottage cheese, like Indian cheese. It's like tofu, and we had a lot of cream in it and stuff like tomato and cream in it. And then we deep fried. We call them puris. They're like flatbreads, and then you deep fry them. And after we went plant-based, it's we're still doing the same thing. We're still having special meals. I've substituted the cheese for tofu. I don't put any cream in anything anymore. And we just eat plain flatbread, which doesn't have to be deep fried. And, we'll eat brown rice with it or things like that, something which is much healthier. So same thing, it's not changed our rituals, it's not changed our celebrations, it's just changed the food and made it more healthy.
Right? Because
Yeah.
isn't that's the whole point of this is we
Yeah.
want to be eating, healthy foods that are going to fuel this high performance vehicle. This is a seriously high performance vehicle, serious.
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, we've cut down probably on a lot of calories we ate that day every month.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how
So,
important is meal planning and preparation in successfully adhering to a plant-based diet?
it's important. And I think it's important, especially initially. I think meal prep and planning is important for anybody. So, like, I have people who come from the fitness world. I have people who've, tried like 30 different diets, keto and Atkins and paleo and Jenny Craig and Weight Watchers and everything. And everybody does meal prep. I mean, when you have to be successful, and a lot of people are successful with anytime you cut down on the standard American junk food diet, you're going to lose weight. So, so meal prep is very key. The more you cook at home, the more you prep your ingredients at home, the more you pack your lunches and take to work, the more you're prepared with healthy snacks when you're hungry is going to be so important. And with the plant-based diet, I mean, of course, you're getting used to a different way of eating. So meal prep is important. Bring your oats. I always say, make your like grains, cook your brown rice in a rice cooker or an instant pot, cook extra. If you're using dried beans, make a whole lot of beans, make more oats, and every day you can just scoop them out from the fridge, throw in some berries and some chia seeds on it, and leave for work. Buy apples and bananas and oranges. They're very easy to eat fruit like snacks. So meal prep is extremely important. And once you get used to it, it just becomes a habit. But without meal prep, I don't think you will be successful in any weight loss program.
It's one of the things I talk about a lot. I call it shop, chop, prep. So
Yes. Yes.
So Fridays, you go grocery shopping, you have your list of things, and then Saturday you prep the vegetables. You wash the celery, the peppers and all those things. Get those ready, and so that Sunday, I would go in the kitchen and I would prepare 3 or 4 or 5 dishes. I'm set for the week. Cook once, eat many times.
I
Right,
do that for my oatmeal. Like we make a big batch. Like we made a big batch yesterday. And we ate the same thing yesterday, the same thing today, and we have it left over for tomorrow. So we have it for 3 days.
right. Well, you
Yeah.
have a couple of kids too, so it's you and your
Yeah, we
husband.
have two daughters still living at home and my husband and I. So yeah, I made a gigantic batch and they love it. The girls just scoop it up in a to-go cup and they just put it in the microwave and they just run out the door.
Right? Talk about easy. I mean, seriously.
So so easy.
So easy. I mean, and once you get down, this lifestyle down, it just as you said, it becomes rote. And when you do eat and you become this way, you find like if I eat out, and it's very difficult for me because I have reactions to oil and salt.
Yeah.
So it's almost different, I know that my blood pressure is going to go up if I eat out. It's just, I accept it and,
Yeah.
I understand. But at home, there's no oil. My house is my wellness forum. It's my wellness kitchen.
Yeah.
And I really take time to make sure that what I'm eating is going to meet my needs of my body. So,
Yeah.
are there specific plant foods you recommend for weight loss benefits?
I mean, I don't recommend anything specific, especially if someone's coming off a standard American diet. I'm like, eat any plant foods, but specifically, I was actually reading the Power Foods book through Dr. Neil Barnard, and I know you've had him on your podcast. So things that promote your metabolism, berries, excellent, excellent food. Every day on my oatmeal, I have berries, even if they're not in season. Your citrus foods. So again, I love oranges. The winter is just the best for oranges. I actually have those little tiny four of them every day. Other things like your leafy and cruciferous vegetables, I think your biggest powerhouse. So they should probably be in everything: cauliflower, kale, cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, arugula, and any leafy green, honestly, spinach, lettuce, dark lettuces. They're very low in calorie, high in fiber, high in water weight. They're just nutrient dense. So many antioxidants, polyphenols, minerals get from these foods. And then I think a lot of spices, not only do they make our food very tasty, they aid in weight loss. I think Dr. Greger has mentioned in his book, one of his books, I think, How Not to Diet, like cumin, cinnamon. I throw cinnamon in my oatmeal every day. I even use cinnamon in my Indian bean soups and curries and lentil soups because it's just so good. Black pepper, hot pepper, so your green chili peppers, ginger and garlic, these things make your food so tasty. And on top of that, they help in promoting weight loss. I think there's been tons of studies on cinnamon and ginger and capsaicin from the chili peppers. So these are some foods that you can add to aid weight loss when you're doing this.
Well, Dr. Barnard specifically says it's the Ceylon cinnamon that
Yeah, yeah.
really takes.
Everybody, Dr. Greger says Ceylon. I just bought it actually a couple months ago.
I love
So
it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I do add a big scoop of that to my smoothie every morning, and it adds a lovely flavor to it. Oh my God. So
It's so
good.
delicious. So I mean, why not?
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Duh. So fiber is another big topic we need to discuss because if you're on the standard American diet, you are not getting enough fiber. And that's one of the reasons why we see so much like constipation and problems with, the whole digestive system because you don't have the fiber. So How does fiber intake from a plant-based diet contribute to weight loss and overall health?
Oh, big time. Fiber is, of course, first of all, it's only present in plant-based foods, right? There is no fiber in any, and not eggs, not your cottage cheese, not yogurt. None of this has any fiber. These are animal-based foods. Junk food, they pretty much strip all the fiber from, for example, potatoes and make chips out of it. So whole plant foods have fiber. Fiber is, it can be soluble or insoluble. It produces bulk in your gut. It improves satiety. Of course, you feel so much fuller. It improves the absorption of your minerals. So if you're worried about your calcium absorption, eat more fiber. So those things it does, it lowers your cholesterol, it lowers your blood sugar, and of course you're not constipated, so your bowels are moving much better. What else does it do? It actually helps improve your weight, gets you to a healthier BMI by all these different mechanisms. So fiber is really important. You need about 25 to 30 grams. And I think researchers have found that our ancestors, like the ancient people who they called hunters and gatherers, were pretty much gatherers and hunters, and they had 100 grams of fiber a day, which is sort of almost impossible. In the standard American diet, you don't even get the 25 grams that they're recommending. So plant-based foods, you want to feel satisfied, eat fiber. Because a lot of patients will come and say, you know what, I was told by my dietitian to eat more protein, so I'll feel more satisfied. And so that's a big misconception I have to bust. And I'm like, no, 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 you gotta eat more fiber, not more protein. Excess protein actually has no storage. There's no place in our body that can store excess protein. It turns into fat. Just like excess sugar turns into fat, so does excess protein turn into fat. So it's not like you're just eating protein and tons of protein and you're just building muscle. No, it's becoming fat. So fiber is not doing that. Fiber comes out if it's not needed. It's literally, think of it like I always say, think like your colon has a little scrubby brush inside it, and it's just brushing all the toxins, the cholesterol, the sugar. It's just taking it all out and pooping it out.
Right?
So that's what it's doing. Yeah.
Well, I got to spend time on an electron microscope in my undergrad, and I mean the real big, real deal. And
Yeah.
I got to see what fiber looks like under an electron microscope. And you're right, it is like little scrub brushes going through your colon. Exact,
Right. It's
perfect
awesome.
description. Yeah, for sure. Also, I want to point out that fiber, we don't digest it, and it goes in down into our gut biome, and it's
Mhm.
digested. We have about 5 pounds of bacteria that's in our
Yep.
gut, and that is what it eats. It
Yes.
eats fiber, and it's got this wonderful, wonderful benefit, this very synergistic working relationship that it gives us short chain fatty acids as a side effect. It's like,
Yeah.
really? This is great.
Totally. And if you eat like more meat, like heme iron, then it becomes like TMAO and it promotes heart disease. And our gut now, there's more and more research that literally the gut microbiome is related to everything. Your better immune health, better weight, better cancer survival, and so many more things, which I'm sure it'll come out in the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, and depression. I mean,
Yes, serotonin. It's made in the gut.
yeah, absolutely. And it has a huge impact on it. And I see so many people so depressed
Yeah.
and just not happy anymore. And I can only attribute it to the diet and what we're eating because it's just it has a huge impact. And I've seen people that were severely depressed their entire life that have gone plant-based and are now happy and smiling and
Yeah.
loving life. And it's like boom, you know?
Yeah, I have a whole thing when people come to me for depression treatment. I really do really emphasize lifestyle changes a lot. I'm like, eat more fiber, get out in the sun, exercise, sleep 7 hours, just so important to do all of these things.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what challenges do people typically face when transitioning to a plant-based diet for weight loss, and how can they overcome them?
So in my practice, I see there's so many unique challenges. Of course, every individual is different. Their life situations are different. One is that they've never been exposed to such a diet. And, it's really hard for them to grasp the concept. And a lot of my patients actually understand. They're like, yeah, yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, but they have family, like, they'll have kids, they have to probably cook for their husband, or the husband has to cook for the wife. They have children, they have elderly parents, maybe. They work two jobs, they don't have any time. So those are challenges. And there's just even there are misconceptions like I need protein. Where am I going to get my protein? That comes up a lot, a lot. So I say educate yourself. The first and foremost thing is I have a whole list of resources I hand them to educate themselves. Documentaries, be it podcasts, websites, folks like yourself, your website, things like that. And once you're educated, I'm like, maybe you could watch the documentary with your spouse or your child or your parent or whoever you're living with, and the other challenge is a lot of people don't know how to cook. Like when I take detailed food histories and they'll say, yeah, I eat Chobani yogurt for breakfast, a granola bar for snack, and then they go and buy like a prepackaged salad from a grocery store for lunch, and then they'll probably cook a little bit of a basic dinner. So, then I always tell them you need to learn how to meal prep and cook, and you can have very easy things that you can make. For example, like beans and rice, just buy boxed rice, buy a can of beans, buy a can of tomatoes, and put it together. So something like that. So those are some challenges, and I work with each individual based on their life circumstance, and I try to counsel them or give them ideas, resources based on, and even things that they relate to. Like, for example, like somebody will be obese and have diabetes. So I'll give them resources which are very much focused on diabetes and plant-based diets. Or if someone had been very athletic and they want to know how they could get enough protein on a plant-based diet. There's a really good book by Brenda Davis on plant-based protein. So things like that. So I like tailor their education even to what they're relating to the most. Or if they've had breast cancer, for example, because obesity is very linked to breast cancer. So I'll give them, you know, resources on breast cancer and plant-based diets. It's all gonna be the same concept in the end, but it's relatable to their conditions. So I think that's one way to overcome the challenges. I always try and tell them, please, please involve your family members. I even actually have them bring their family members to the office visit. I'm like, bring your spouse or your child or your parent to the visit. So when they hear me talk, they may not give you so much opposition at home. So those kind of things.
Well, I have to tell you, dinner and a movie, that is powerful. Especially
Yes.
trying to get the husband, you need to do game changers. Because
Yes.
any man that still likes to, I should say, raise the flag, we'll keep this PG. Any man who likes to still raise
Yeah.
that flag, you know,
Yeah.
that is so powerful. And just a quick story. My husband and I went to see that movie in the movie theater. And I
Oh,
went
wow.
Yeah, and I went with my girlfriend and her daughter. Now her daughter's, older. So as soon as the movie was over, of course, three women have to go to the bathroom. And we're in the bath. And my husband, when that scene came on, and I won't, spoiler alert,
You know what scene that is?
the urologist that had the guys, okay, when that scene came on, he wanted to talk about it right then and there in the movie theater. And I'm like, "Shh, nope, nope." And
Let's just
I knew it wasn't a question of if, but when. And so I'm in the sink washing my hands and I'm with my girlfriends and I was I I'll text you when my husband starts talking about that scene in the movie. I'll just go now and you'll know what I'm talking about. And we laughed, ha ha ha. My husband, now we were in the lobby of like one of those multiplex, 14, 15 cinemas. And so we come out of the bathroom. My husband was waiting right outside the door. And literally, he's a very quiet and very, kind of shy kind of guy at the top of his lungs. Oh my God, did you see that scene? And we just looked at each other and burst out laughing. Oh my God, he couldn't wait to talk about that scene. He could not wait. And he was
yeah.
like, oh my God, this is so amazing. So if you need to get men on board, game changers, that's
The
it,
Game Changers is my top. So in my list of resources, that is the number one documentary listed.
right?
Yep.
Because it's totally guy's movie.
No,
Women,
it's actually very entertaining. It's really made well. It's very entertaining. It's not boring and
no,
it's not like preachy. It's just a really entertaining movie which gives you good knowledge. Yeah, I like it.
absolutely. And I did an interview with Dotsie Bosch, who is the Olympic
Oh
champion,
yeah.
the cyclist. Oh, what an amazing woman she is. Oh,
Yeah.
just incredible. But anyway, the other thing, Instant Pot. If you do not own an Instant Pot,
That one.
game changer. Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are afraid to use it. And it's, that's one of the things that I teach in the Plant-Based Academy is I teach people how to use that. I've got videos, I go through detailed step by step, especially
Yeah.
for, people new to this lifestyle. They're very intimidated by the Instant Pot. And it's like, it's so easy and it makes your life.
Yeah. I actually, because in Indian cooking, we do make a lot of beans anyway. It's a part of the Indian diet. So we use the pressure cooker, which goes on the stove. But you still have to monitor it, right? You have to stand there the whole time where your thing is cooking because you can't, if you leave something, you're gonna burn it. So actually, when I went whole food plant-based, one of my brother-in-law was over at our house for a little bit, and he told me, he said, "Have you used the Instant Pot?" I said, "No, it's just sitting in the garage. I don't know how to use it. It's so weird." And he said, "Well, bring it out." And that's it. The moment he showed me the buttons, I was hooked. So now I have two Instant Pots. It's just amazing. Yeah. It's like such a nice device. It is. And so my mom, same thing. She lives in India. She's the traditional pressure cooker Indian mom. Indian women all know how to use a pressure cooker, but on the stove. I told her, I said, "Mom, try the Instant Pot." And then I showed her the buttons and she's like, "Wow, this is great. I can just put the beans on it and I can make all kinds of different foods while they're cooking." I said, "Yes, you can." So it was very good. I love the Instant Pot. I'm sure there's other multi cookers from other companies too, which I don't know, but I use the Instant Pot. I love it.
It's so true. And I usually have them going. I mean, I will always have, you can come to my house anytime. You open up my refrigerator, there's always cooked potatoes in my
Yeah.
fridge or some
Yeah.
kind of starch. Like my favorite is kamut. Oh,
Really? I've never tried it.
oh, good, so good. It's chewy. And what I like is especially like the grain farro. Like if I cook
Yeah.
that in the Instant Pot, it just comes out, all the gluten comes out and it's
Yeah.
sticky.
Yeah. I've had farro. I like it, but you're right. It's very sticky.
Yes, the kamut, very similar flavor to farro, but it doesn't stick. And it just,
Oh.
it's great because I top it on my salads. Talk about
Oh,
satiation. Oh, add that to the top of your salads, you're going to feel full. And it's so delicious. It's amazing. So, I can cook it in the Instant Pot, but I typically like to cook it like pasta on the stove. And
okay.
it's just amazing. And I cook up a whole bag. I'll cook it up at once, put some in the freezer, boom. And then I add it to salads. I
Right.
add it to, it's just everything, to
Yeah, I
every,
have quinoa and brown rice sitting in my fridge right now, just there, so I can just throw it into something at the end.
right. Beans, you can always find beans in my fridge, some kind of grain, some kind of potato, sweet potato, white potato, whatever. There, I can pull those things out and make food very quickly, a dish
Yep,
in less than 10 minutes.
very
So,
easily.
well, how important is portion control on a plant-based diet for weight loss, and how can that be effectively managed?
So portion control is and not important in both. It depends. So, there are some more calorie dense foods. For example, like if you're eating leafy and cruciferous vegetables and non-starchy vegetables, you can eat tons of them because they're about 100 to 200 calories a pound. But if you're like, so things that are very calorie dense in the whole plant food world also are your seeds, nuts, nut butters, dates, raisins, so anything dried fruit because you've removed all the water and you just, concentrated the fruit and the sugar in it. So those things need to be portion controlled. And nuts are very addictive. And that's why even Dr. Esselstyn, he's like, eat 4 walnuts a day. That's it. I used to actually keep a whole box of nuts in my office, thinking I'll have it last a month, and it lasted me 5 days. So they're extremely calorie dense foods. They're very addictive. They're good for you, but in very limited quantities. So you have to portion control that kind of stuff. Walnuts, cashews, peanuts, you cannot just eat unlimited amounts. But if you're eating just plain fruits and vegetables, you don't need to control much portion. So when you build your plate for losing weight, you need to make sure that 50% of your meal is at least have fruits and vegetables or vegetables mostly, non-starchy vegetables. And the other 50%, you can have a quarter of your plate with healthy protein like your beans, tofu, things like that. And the rest of the quarter can be a starchy vegetable or like a whole grain, like brown rice or quinoa or whole wheat, one whole wheat toast. Even that. Breads, again, very calorie dense food, even Ezekiel bread. So you don't want to eat more than two-ish slices a day. So those are need to be portion controlled. So because if you go crazy on dates and peanuts and nuts and cashews, you're not going to lose weight. You're going to gain weight. In fact, I have patients who came back, they're like, well, I'm plant-based now, but I'm gaining weight. It's because of these kind of things. Yes, you do have to portion control calorie dense foods. You can, and if you're still hungry, like say you're used to eating a high, like I like to eat a lot of food. I love food. Just eat a lot of low calorie foods, eat your salads first. When you come home and you're hungry and you're prepping your dinner, just eat an orange or eat, a few grapes and eat a cucumber and then you eat your meal afterwards. So yes, portion control is important with those kind of foods.
Well, first of all, potato hour. That's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, when you got the hangries, and
Yeah.
so you're circling around the vending machine,
Yeah.
right? That's when you have the potato. And I would heat up, I had a what's called a mini hot logic, and I would use that to heat up my foods. And this is my kind of technology. You plug it
Mm.
in, it's on. You unplug it, it's off.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
You could
Okay.
use it in the car as well. When you're driving along, we'll heat up our food and stuff like that. And I absolutely love this. I had it at work, and then at lunchtime, I would cut up my potato and put a little bit of it's a veggie sriracha sauce made by True Made Foods, very, very clean.
Mhm.
And I would put that on there, and I would heat up my potatoes. And I that would be my after school snack because I had another hour and a half to go because I was in the library walking around going, "Hey, find something to do. You
Yeah. Yeah.
you got
Yeah,
work,
because
do it."
in the office it's inundated with cookies, especially these days. I walk into my office kitchen and boxes of cookies, boxes of brownies, candy. It's all there. It's all staring at you. And then you're right, at the 3 o'clock, you're like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm so hungry. What do I do now?
Right?
Right? Yeah.
And I know those nuts are little calorie bombs. Oh my gosh,
So
they are
many calories.
horrible. And so I'm a food addict, and I'll be the first to go, "Hi, I'm Gene Schumacher. I'm a food addict." I'll be the first.
Food too. I love food. Love, love, love to eat. Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if you know this, I've lost over 100 pounds, and I did it
Oh, wow.
without dieting. It's just eating plant-based. And I still have some more to go, but it's like, yeah, my it doesn't want to give up the mothership, my fat. So okay, we're still working on that low caloric density stuff. I make what I call my omega-3, omega-6 nut bowls. And
Mhm.
literally I had these little tiny containers, that I got
Yeah.
from Ziploc, and I lay them out on the counter. I must have over 100. And I'll go through and put one cashew, one
Yeah.
walnut, and then a couple of pine nuts, ground flax seeds, some sesame seeds, things like that. So I have a whole list of all of this, and that's what goes on top of my salad when I'm
Yeah.
eating my salad so I can help absorb the fat soluble vitamins.
Yeah.
So that's one of my big things is to make.
Nuts are a really slippery slope, and I am addicted to nuts, and hence I don't keep boxes of nuts in my office anymore.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
can't.
what I call it, my inner squirrel.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Because
Yeah.
if there's an open bag of nuts, and my husband does this all the time. We're on the road, he'll stop at, like, when
Oh,
we
and buy a bag of nuts.
yeah, and we need to empty one tank and fill up another. He goes and gets these bags of nuts, and we're sitting there eating them like M&Ms in the car. I mean, and you just chow down like 1,000 or more calories, and it's like, really.
Yeah.
And
So even so, in plant foods, you do have to be mindful of calories and portions. Yes.
well, also, but think about it too. In nature, if you go back like 5,000 years ago, what would you have found in nature that was high caloric density like that?
Yeah.
Would you?
Nothing.
Now, there's a few things, but think about it. Avocados, how often did they come into season? Then you had to be
Yeah.
in the right climate for those.
Yeah.
Nuts and seeds, again, they would come into season once a year. I knew where every nut tree was in my neighborhood, and we would go around with a bag,
Yeah.
collect the nuts that had fallen from the tree, and we'd sit there in the road with a rock and a pick, and have by in 3 hours you'd have enough.
Yeah, it's the same when I was a kid growing up in India, the peanut season was in the winter, and so were the pine nuts. And they came from Kashmir in India. So we would get, so my dad and mom would sit out in the sun and we'd literally open up the peanuts, each of them. First, they would roast them, then they'd open it up, then they take the husk off. So in like an hour, we maybe got to eat like 5 peanuts and 5 pine nuts. And even when we were kids, now they're all just come in a big bag and you could just take, you
Yeah,
know,
I know.
yeah,
But
yeah,
back in nature,
yeah,
that meant the difference,
yeah,
5,000 years ago, that meant the difference of whether you were going to survive the winter or not because you had that a
yeah.
little bit of extra fat and you gorged on that. So think about it. Our mind is really pre-programmed to seek out those high caloric density foods. Absolutely 100%. Oh, and you want them and they taste so
Yeah.
good.
Body,
Oh,
the body is built to hold on to fat because of our evolution. We have, we're not evolved in that way. Like we still want to hold on to fat, but now we just have plenty and excess of everything, which we didn't
right.
before.
100%.
Mhm.
Well, what impact does physical activity have in conjunction with a plant-based diet for effective weight management?
So physical activity is really important. So first disclaimer, exercise does not drive weight loss. So for example, if I have a problem with obesity and I want to lose weight and I don't change anything about my diet and I just start going to the gym, I'll lose a little bit, very tiny bit of weight, but not a lot. So physical activity is really, really important to increase your metabolic rate, to increase lean body mass, to increase your muscle mass, to keep your bones strong, your balance good. Then, of course, reduce your risk of heart attacks, reduce your risk of diabetes, lower your blood sugars. All of that comes with exercise. And both aerobic, like cardio, and anaerobic, your strength training, like other strength exercises. But it does not purely just drive weight loss. Like, just an example, like I was saying before, like a 6 ounce of chicken breast is about 380 or 390 calories. To burn that, you would have to run on the treadmill at 5 miles an hour for 30 minutes. And a cookie, a chocolate chip cookie is 200 calories. And a small chocolate chip cookie. So say, like I told you, there's cookies on my in my office. If I ate two cookies, I ate 400 calories. What, I'd be running 45 minutes to an hour to just burn two cookies off? So it's just not, the math doesn't make any sense. So yes, exercise is really, really, really important. And it's also actually really important to prevent obesity. So if you're younger or if you have kids, get them to be very physically active. Like when we were children, we played outside. We didn't have our screens and such. We literally just came from school and played outside. Prevent obesity. And then also, once you've lost weight with whatever, like say you have a combination of tools, you've taken your meds, you've done the surgery, you're on a plant-based diet, and you've lost your weight, you must exercise to maintain your weight loss. So that is really important. And the recommended physical activity minimum is 150 minutes of moderate physical activity per week of aerobic activity. So, like you're walking briskly for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. That's not a lot at all. And the more, the better. Physical activity, although very important, will not alone cause weight loss.
Me and Bruce, we like dancing in the dark. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
heard that song, but
Yes.
I like to do, me and Bruce, we dance in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also too, I love to walk in the woods. And I have a state park right next to me where I can, even in the height, I live on Cape Cod, the height of tourist season, I can disappear into the woods and not see
Yeah.
another person. I mean, if you look at the earth, it's a big magnet.
Yeah.
And we're primarily made of, 3/4 of our body is water.
Yes.
Is a polar molecule. It's got a plus and a minus, and it lines up in an electromagnetic field. And that's what we are in, is the earth. And so once you can get away from your house and all of the electromagnetic radiation that's going on within your house and just get out into nature and start, you
Mhm.
feel almost like it's realigning you.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And so we take time when we go out on our walk, we take 10 minutes. My husband sets the timer, and it's very difficult for him to sit quietly by, just no talking, no cell phones, just sit and be in nature.
Oh,
And he's
yeah.
getting much better at it, I have to say. But we sit for 10 minutes and just be in, they call it forest bathing, and it's just amazing, part of that our day, and it just makes it, oh, it's just
It's so, yeah, and especially with so much anxiety and depression going around with the people around the world, we're consuming social media, just this everything is anxiety provoking. So.
So true. And I just
Disconnect.
feel so grounded when I come out of the woods. I just do.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we usually start with a hike in the woods and then we end up on the beaches.
That's the luxury of living on the Cape, right?
It is. And if anybody wants to come visit, we have an Airbnb. Come and visit us, especially when the tide goes out on the bay side, because of the way it's developed, it was formed from glaciers. The beach literally goes out for miles. And you can
It's
literally, and the best is when it's a sunset and the tide is out, you can walk out into the sunset. Like
yeah,
it's so beautiful.
it's
Oh,
beautiful. Yeah, I grew up on the beach for the first 10 years of my life. I grew up that then it was called Bombay, now it's Mumbai. And our building was right, there was a coconut grove, beach, and then my apartment complex. So
oh,
really beautiful. Really beautiful. I loved growing up on the ocean. Yeah.
it's my happy place. And there's so many
Yep.
different environments here on the Cape. Anyway, I could talk about that for hours. But
Absolutely.
how can one stay motivated and maintain consistency in a plant-based eating approach for weight loss?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yes, you're right. So, initially, it's easy, like when you're all excited. I think the biggest motivation that drives people is when they see the change. Oh my God, I've lost so much weight. I feel so good. I go in the bathroom every day. I'm sleeping better. I feel energetic. So, that's a motivator. Secondly, I think just having somebody to be accountable with, like maybe your friend, your family, or like even like for my patients, when I start them on weight loss meds or I'm counseling them on lifestyle, I bring them back pretty frequently. Of course, I don't have that many appointments, but if in the ideal world, I would bring them back every 2 weeks, but I bring them back every 6 to 8 weeks so that they're here. I kind of like intake their food diary, like what are they eating, their physical activity diary, their water intake, all of that. So the accountability piece helps a lot of people, especially initially. How else can you stay motivated? I always, for me personally, I love to stay motivated. Like when I fall off the wagon, like I'll just start eating unhealthier foods. I go back to listening podcasts, just, like something new that has come out, maybe a new book. I'll just read a few chapters and you just re-motivate, you re-educate you. I attend a lot of conferences. So I would just say that keep yourself educated all the time, keep yourself accountable to somebody, have a partner, and then the change is motivating you in itself. So all those things will keep you motivated.
I like the blood work. When you get your blood
Oh
work,
yeah, of course, the labs. Absolutely.
yes,
Yeah.
and you start to see the changes that are happening. And the biggest change I saw was in 3 weeks, this one guy that I was working with, his cholesterol went from 279 to 99.
Wow.
I'm
It's
like, how in 3 weeks?
yeah, like I ask a statin to do that. Get it? No.
Not at all. Okay. Last question. Are there any potential nutrient deficiencies to be aware of when following a plant-based diet especially for weight loss?
Yeah, I mean, just so if you're exclusively plant-based, I think the biggest thing is to take a vitamin B12 supplement because B12 comes from the dirt, right? So yes, meat eaters can get B12, but I think everybody should take it. So that's the one thing that you just, and then maybe omega 3s. A carefully planned plant-based diet actually can even provide you omega 3s, so you don't even need to take that, but you can take a algae-based supplement. I do. The other things that if you've had bariatric surgery, for example, if you've had gastric bypass or a gastric sleeve, you could become anemic because it is harder to absorb minerals through a smaller stomach. You could become deficient in iron, B1, B12, vitamin D. So you need to definitely supplement those and you need to get labs very regularly to make sure that you're not deficient. Because I see some of my bariatric patients, they just don't stop taking their supplements and then they get anemic. So that's something. But in an exclusively plant-based diet, I would say mostly B12. You could get omega 3s in the diet, but you can just supplement with an algae-based supplement.
I just
Those
want to
things.
throw out too, iodine is another one that
Yes,
is tough to get because it's usually found in seafoods, the algae and things like that. And I don't like fishy flavors. So I,
same. I take a
I
supplement.
right. Well, I don't take a supplement. I use combo and it's seaweed. And what I do is I take when I get it, I cut it up into like 1 inch strips. So I cut it up into 1 inch squares and I'll just throw in one or two pieces of that into my smoothie. I don't taste it,
No.
and I get my iodine because otherwise, back in the day, it used to be iodized salt,
Yeah.
which was great, but now we don't do iodized salt, and we're using all these, special, the crystals and this and that and whatever. But
I actually, that's why I went back. Like, all these plant-based, whole food plant-based will say use sea salt or Himalayan salt or pink salt. I still use iodized salt just because I'm like, I have kids, just to get that little bit of iodine. I've just reduced our salt putting in to the food. We haven't given it up fully. The thing is, I think the main source of sodium, honestly, is from junk food. So if you're not eating junk food and you're putting a little bit in your cooking, it's okay, I feel. Especially, and none of us have hypertension and things like that, so we're fine.
well, and when you look at how much salt is in the foods, it's absolutely insane.
Oh
It,
yeah.
I mean, we were at one of those restaurants where you can go through and say, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And I went on the website while I was waiting. The line was long, thank goodness. And I started picking apart
Sodium.
the amount of sodium would have been 2 days of sodium
Yeah,
on
yeah.
me. I said,
In one.
honey, if we eat here, my next stop will be at the emergency room
Oh
because
yeah, because you're very sensitive to salt,
oh,
correct?
I'm extraordinarily sensitive to it. So, I say don't cook with it because what happens is the salt breaks up into ions. And so to really get that salty flavor, you really have to put a ton of salt in to get that. Now, restaurants do that because A, it's cheap, number one, and number two, it's an appetite stimulant, and it's salty, so you're going to want to drink more, which is where they make a lot of their profit, which is on,
You have all the alcohol. Mm-hmm.
whatever drinks or whatever. But and I remember going out to a restaurant, and we were rehabbing the house, and the kitchen was there was no kitchen. We had gutted it and we're redoing it. So we were eating out more than I usually don't eat out. And I went and got a salad, and then they had a black bean soup, and I just got a cup, 8 ounces. And I didn't even make it out to the car. I get blood pressure headaches. And
Oh yeah. There you go.
I didn't even get out to the car. I thought my head was going to split open. I got home, my blood pressure was off the charts. And I
Yeah.
Googled how much. I didn't think to ask. I asked about oil. I asked about, is there any animal product? No, 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 no. I forgot to
Yeah.
ask about
It's
salt.
all vegan. Yeah, yeah. But it's still exactly.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe how much salt it was. It was like 60% of your daily nutritional value in that cup of soup. It was insane.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Restaurants are very salty. Yeah. Of
restaurants are not there for health promotion. They are
course,
there to make money.
of course.
Okay. It's who doesn't like to go out to eat? I do. I like to have somebody else cooking for me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not there for your health on any
No,
level.
not
Please
at all.
be
Yeah.
aware of that.
We eat out mostly when we travel. When we're local, my husband and I, like the people say, oh, we go out for date night regular. We're like, yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
We just cook at home.
We do. My husband and I mostly we eat at home. It's, and if I do go out, I know that I'm going to have to take blood pressure medication because I was on 4 blood pressure medications. I'm not on any now. But if I do go out, I will have to take some medications because I know
Yeah.
my blood pressure is going up. I know.
Go out. Exactly,
So
exactly. Yeah.
anyway, well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here tonight. It's been an absolute honor to connect with you.
Well, thank you for having me. Such a pleasure. Yeah.